Hey everybody, my name is Jared and I am a Master Mason in the state of Mississippi in the United States of America, and we are still in the third section of the Entered Apprentice lecture as given here in the state of Mississippi, and the next portion reads like this. The furniture of a lodge consists of the Holy Bible, square, and compasses. The Bible is dedicated to God because it is the inestimable gift of God to man. The square to the master, it being the proper masonic emblem of his office, and the compasses to the craft, that, by a due attention to their use, they may circumscribe their desires and keep their passions and prejudices in due bounds with all mankind, more especially with a brother Mason. So before we go any further, it's important to kind of know ahead of time in order to explain this, that the next two parts of this section of the lecture are going to include ornaments and then jewels. So we're going to talk about furniture first, then ornaments, then jewels. So with furniture, what we're specifically talking about is like equipment, tools that we're going to use. So we start off with the Holy Bible, which is described as being the inestimable gift of God to man. Another term that you'll hear used masonically throughout the world is volume of the sacred law, which is a more non-denominational way to explain any text that a man may regard through his religion as something that is sacred, that is divinely inspired, and gives him the direction that he needs in a religious aspect in order to save his soul or to reach deity. So the volume of the sacred law, or in this case, the Holy Bible. The next piece of furniture we come across here is the square, which will get explained to us in more detail later in our journey, but here we learn that it is set aside for the master, it being the proper tool of his office. So the square to the master. And then we come, of course, to the compasses. So everybody that has ever looked at Freemasonry at all is quite familiar with the square and compasses. So we just talked about the square, now we get the compasses, and we have a description here that is a lot easier to if you can visualize it while it's being said. So we're talking about, if you're familiar with compasses, it's that tool that is used to make a perfect circle when you're drawing on a flat surface. So in using that and drawing a circle, we are talking about thinking about that, being speculative about how that circle can constrain us and keep us in due bounds. We can say this circle represents the border on which I will not pass. This is my limits. That's where I'm going to go. So now let's go back to the words that are used here. And the compasses to the craft, that by a due attention to their use, they may circumscribe their desires and keep their passions and prejudices in due bounds with all mankind, more especially with a brother Mason. Now, all things being equal, that last sentence there doesn't seem to carry much weight, because if you're keeping your passions and prejudices in due bounds with all mankind, there shouldn't have a necessity to be any more especially. But we do add in that emphasis, more especially with a brother Mason. So there we are, the furniture of the lodge, the Holy Bible, square, and compasses. We talked about them before. They've been explained a little bit more, and as we go through the journey, they will be expounded upon even further. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch. If you have any particular questions about this portion of the third section as it is here in the state of Mississippi, leave it down below. And as always, I am intrigued to hear about whether or not this lesson is given in any portion of your degree work, if of course your Grand Lodge permits you to share that information. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.